The Pawn Stars shop is quietly being demolished in 2026, fans are stunned. The gold and silver pawn shop survived bankruptcy, family lawsuits, felony charges, and the death of the old man himself. For 15 years, it was the most watched pawn shop on earth. But in 2026, fans started noticing something strange. Construction equipment appeared outside. Barriers went up along Las Vegas Boulevard. Corey left the country and nearly died in Mexico. Rick got married for the 5th time, this time to an Elvis impersonator's blessing, right before his son ended up in a hospital bed unable to move. His net worth dropped to a reported $10,000. Rick's own mother had sued him over missing money. And rumors spread that the show itself was finished. So when people started whispering that the shop was being torn down, they believed it. The truth, as always with this family, is far more complicated than anyone expected. To understand what is happening in 2026, you have to go back to where this whole story began. And it does not start in Las Vegas. It starts in Danville, Virginia, where Richard Benjamin Harrison Jr. was born on March 4, 1941. He grew up in Lexington, North Carolina, dropped out of high school in his junior year, and by the time he was 14, he was already driving a school bus. Then at 17, he met Joanne Rue at a barn dance. Her father was a county judge, and when Richard found himself in serious trouble for stealing a car, the judge gave him a choice: prison or the military. Richard chose the United States Navy in October 1958, and that choice changed everything. He served 20 years, reached the rank of personnel man first class, and somewhere along the way, even at only 38, picked up the nickname the Old Man. It fit him so well it never left. Richard and Joanne built a family together, 4 children: Sherry, Joseph, Rick, and Chris. But happiness never arrived without pain. Sherry was born with Down syndrome and died when she was only 6. Her medical care was expensive. Richard had already left the service, but he re-enlisted 14 months later just so she could stay on military healthcare. That one fact tells you more about the man than any television episode ever could. When he was discharged in 1979, the family tried to settle in San Diego. Then in 1981, interest rates surged toward 18% and the Harrisons lost around $1 million almost overnight. All they had left was $5,000. So they packed the car and drove to Las Vegas. Richard and his son Rick, who was just 16, opened a tiny coin shop in a 300-square-foot storefront on Las Vegas Boulevard and started over from nothing. Over the next decade they moved, lost leases, rebuilt, and ground their way forward. Rick became obsessed with a city law from 1955 that limited pawn licenses to 1 per 50,000 residents. He called the city statistician week after week asking the same question. Had the population crossed 250,000? The moment it did, in 1989, the Harrisons moved fast. They got their pawn license and opened the gold and silver pawn shop at 713 Las Vegas Boulevard South, less than 2 miles from the Strip. That address would eventually become one of the most recognized in the world. For 2 decades, the shop mostly stayed quiet. Open 24 hours, lending money to gamblers who needed enough cash to get home, buying whatever came through the door. By 2005 they were loaning out around $3 million a year and pulling in about $700,000 in interest. Rick had developed a sharp eye for unusual pieces, rare coins, historical artifacts, sports memorabilia with strange backstories. Then in 2008, 2 producers from a small Manhattan company called Leftfield Pictures came to Las Vegas for the weekend. They were looking for a family-run pawn shop for a reality show. They found gold and silver. The pitch went to the History Channel, and on July 19, 2009, the first 2 episodes of Pawn Stars aired back-to-back. Within 10 weeks, it was the highest-rated program on the network. Within 18 months, the most successful series in its entire history. At its peak, a single episode pulled in more than 7 million viewers, making it one of the biggest reality shows on all of cable television. The shop transformed overnight. Before television, it averaged 70 to 100 customers a day. By October 2010, that number had crossed 1,000. By early 2012, between 3,000 and 5,000 people were walking through the door every single day. Rick spent $400,000 expanding the showroom to 15,000 square feet. He hired 30 new employees. Around 2015, he opened Pawn Plaza next door, a two-story retail complex built from shipping containers, housing Rick's Rollin' Smoke Barbecue and Tavern and later Chumley's Candy. The gold and silver pawn shop had stopped being just a shop. It had become one of the biggest non-gaming tourist attractions in Las Vegas. Of course, what viewers saw on screen was never the full picture. The show's manager later admitted that items were screened by producers before filming. Sellers were coached. Prices were pre-negotiated so deals could happen on camera. The arguments between Rick and the old man, Chumley's clueless routine, the dramatic haggles, all of it was shaped by producers looking for entertainment. They even added fake bleep sounds to make it seem like more was being said than actually was. The family was playing exaggerated versions of itself, and it worked because the audience believed they were watching something real. Then grief arrived, and it did not stop. On June 25, 2018, Richard Benjamin Harrison Jr., the old man himself, died at 77 after a long battle with Parkinson's disease. Most viewers had no idea how sick he had been. The History Channel aired a tribute special just 2 days later, and the shop set up a memorial. But even that loss uncovered hidden pain. The old man's updated will deliberately excluded his youngest son Christopher, with cold and final language offering love but no inheritance. Rick called it a private matter. Then in February 2022, Rick's own mother Joanne, then 81, filed suit against him in Clark County Court. She accused him of persuading her to sign over her 51% stake in the pawn shop during a coma around 2000 or 2001, and claimed that more than $500,000 in cash and silver from the estate was unaccounted for. Rick's side said she was being manipulated. The lawsuit painted a picture that had nothing to do with the friendly family television liked to sell. Chumley had his own crisis back in 2016 when Las Vegas police executed a search warrant at his home and found 12 firearms, several unregistered, along with methamphetamine, unprescribed Xanax, and traces of cocaine. He faced 20 felony counts and the possibility of 70 years in prison. He eventually pleaded guilty to 1 felony weapons charge and 1 gross misdemeanor, served 3 years of probation, completed it clean, and had the felony dismissed. The History Channel said nothing had changed and put him right back on air. Then came the loss that no amount of television success could cushion. On January 19, 2024, Rick Harrison's son Adam was found dead at 39 from fentanyl and methamphetamine toxicity. Adam had struggled with addiction for years. Rick had sent him to rehab repeatedly. In a 2025 interview, Rick said he thought about Adam every day and asked himself whether he could have done something differently. He said there is nothing worse than losing a child. And 2026 started with more upheaval. On January 3, Rick Harrison married Angie Polishkin, a 42-year-old nurse, in an Elvis-officiated ceremony at Las Vegas' Little White Wedding Chapel. Chumley couldn't make it. And notably, Corey was living in Mexico, so Rick's granddaughter Elizabeth served as witness at the ceremony. Yahoo TMZ. Corey had made the decision to leave Las Vegas entirely in 2025. He didn't just step back, he moved to Tulum, Mexico, planning to open a barbecue restaurant on the Caribbean coast and build something that was his. He told the Las Vegas Review-Journal he was ready to move on, that the past few years had been rough, and that he was not in any discussions to renew his contract with the History Channel. Then, on January 26, a motorcycle crash in Tulum left him with 11 broken ribs, a punctured lung, a concussion, and internal bleeding. His treatment cost over $100,000, and he was back home in Tulum by early March 2026, still 3 months behind on rent and not yet strong enough to travel back to the United States. A GoFundMe was launched by a friend. When Rick's representative stated that Rick had already paid the bills, Corey pushed back, saying his father had covered only part of it and called it a loan, not a gift. Corey, still heavily medicated, acknowledged he'd been sedated throughout much of the ordeal. His estimated net worth, once around $4 million, had reportedly dropped to just $10,000. Technically he still holds a 5% stake in the pawn shop, but locked equity doesn't pay hospital bills in Mexico. KPTV Plus 2. All of this, the construction along the boulevard, the family drama, Corey's disappearance, the rumors that the show was finished, made people believe the shop itself was dying. But that conclusion misreads everything happening on the ground. As of April 2026, the gold and silver pawn shop is open, busy, and growing. Rick Harrison told Fox News Digital that his store experienced record-breaking months in both January and February of 2026, even as overall Las Vegas tourism dropped 7.5%. He credited the shop's success to never charging tourists to visit and making sure every single person who walks through the door leaves smiling. He has also been sounding the alarm on a silver shortage, explaining that silver is the best conductor of electricity on the planet and that demand from data centers, electric cars, and solar panels has created a structural deficit of around 200 million ounces per year, meaning silver at his shop sells as fast as he can source it. Fox News WFMDAM. The construction that fueled so much of the demolition speculation was a $112 million public works project running along Las Vegas Boulevard between Sahara Avenue and Stewart Avenue. Crews replaced underground systems dating back to 1942, water lines, sewer systems, storm drains, gas lines, fiber optics. They widened sidewalks, added modern lighting, planted 200 trees, and restored historic neon signs. The project started in spring 2020 and wrapped in mid-2024. While it was happening, it looked like chaos. Heavy machines, lane closures, blocked sightlines. But the buildings were never being torn down. They were being improved. Pawn Stars has been officially renewed to continue its run through the 2026 to 2027 season, with Rick Harrison and Chun Li returning. They have also been recording their podcast, Pawn After Dark, right inside the shop, keeping that familiar setting alive for fans between seasons. Corey's departure is real, but the show isn't ending, and the shop isn't going anywhere. Series reminder. The Gold and Silver Pawn Shop began as a 300-square-foot storefront opened by a retired Navy man and his teenage son with $5,000 and no backup plan. It survived a collapsed real estate market, lost leases, bankruptcy scares, a felony case, a devastating family lawsuit, the death of the patriarch, and the loss of a child. What is happening to it in 2026 is not demolition. It is, messily and imperfectly, the same thing it has always been: a family business trying to survive the next turn. And if the last 35 years have shown anything, it is that this particular family has never known how to do anything other than keep going.